Okay, this is the Air Conservation Commission meeting, Thursday, August 25th, 2016. Please join me in a pledge of allegiance to our nation's flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Changes to the agenda?
Yeah, do you want to talk about the weed poll
Yeah.
as an official agenda item? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's an add-on to that.
Okay. Do that at 8 o'clock. Motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting minutes.
It looked good to me. I didn't see it.
Any changes?
No comments.
Okay. Motion to approve the minutes as written.
So moved.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye. Announcements.
There's a aquifer protection district bylaw inquiry that came through this week, and it just seemed like something you guys might want to know about. So if you're interested in seeing the project that's going to go in, it's across the street from Main Street. It's, if our jurisdiction is 100 feet, it's at 102 feet. So if you have a curiosity, I'll get this for you to see later on. And other than that,
Where's that again?
this is 41 East Main,
East Main. Okay.
at the corner of Pond, Main, and Oak. It takes up the whole between
Okay.
Oak Street and Pond Street. It's the whole block essentially. Frontage on Main.
And who's doing that? The DPW?
It's a private project. That's probably the only announcement. You've got your MACC membership cards, MACC, sent their form letter, the fall conference flyer. But that's about it. I've got other things, but we got them. They're more CA updates and announcements.
Okay. We got about 3 minutes.
Well, then here I'll do a CA update in the meantime. If you'd like to review the letter that will be given to the selectmen in terms of giving Pete funded, asking for their blessing, and I brought that down. If you'd like to have a look at it.
Don't we have to sign it? I think to sign
You sure?
Yeah.
Signing
it. As
up
vice chair.
Okay.
can't hurt.
Yeah, I think we were asked to take a formal vote. Is that right?
Yeah, Robert wanted something formal, but because of what happened at the last meeting, just relaying that in that conversation, he said it sounded like he'd all done it, but if you want to formalize formally, then can't hurt.
So I move that you wanna read the letter?
Selectman of Ayer, Peter McLaughlin came to the Conservation Office through the tax work-off program and brought with him a valuable skill set and professional history, manual and intellectual labor he performed in databasing so many of the documents on the third floor has been extraordinarily valuable, and we look forward to the completion of this task. The Conservation Commission has approved Mr. McLaughlin to continue his work in organizing and databasing our files. The Commission has agreed to pay for 100 hours work, $15 an hour. With your approval, Mr. McLaughlin will renew his efforts on or about September 6th, and the work will be completed by the end of the current calendar year. He will be paid as a contractor to complete this work. The Commission anticipates the project will be completed by the end of the calendar year.
I'll fix that.
The funds to pay Mr. McLaughlin will come from the Wetlands Protection Fund, which is reserved for projects directly related to the administration and enforcement of the Wetlands Protection Act, and which may be used for salaries. The Conservation Commission is kindly requesting that the board approve this use of funds and allow the highly capable Mr. McLaughlin to continue working our office with this irreplaceable service. Sincerely, William Daniels, Chair.
Yeah, so that has to be signed, but I thought we had talked of $10 to $12 an
No, apparently I forgot that.
hour.
Well, I mean, if I already have to edit it, so if you'd like to vote to pay him at a certain rate, then I'll just put that rate in.
I don't recall discussing a specific rate, but,
It's in the minutes from the previous meeting,
is it? Okay.
yeah.
Do you want to make a motion?
I mean, what a discussion, $10, $12, $15.
Have we told him anything yet?
Yeah.
No, he
Well,
he knows that that we're working on doing this, and we discussed giving him a raise. He's getting paid $9 an hour now.
that was my question,
Yeah.
is what, okay. And so what was our discussion 2 meetings ago?
It was 10 to 12.
Yeah, you gotta do 10 to 12.
Okay.
I had a different discussion somewhere else along the line,
Yeah,
and I just substituted.
I'd be fine with 12 if you want
we probably make 12 too.
to. Just,
I
Right.
just think that's what we discussed before, I feel we need to be
Fair enough.
chintzy with those funds.
Okay, is that a motion?
Move to approve letter to pay Mr. McLaughlin $12 an hour and send it to the Board of Selectmen for approval.
Second.
With signature by the chair.
Hmm?
Signature by the chair.
Signature by the current vice chair.
So it has to be,
Acting chair.
it has to be rewritten.
I can fix that towards the end. I'll go up and
Okay,
you can have a signed copy.
all right,
Okay.
second.
all right. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
So you're gonna redo it and then George will sign it,
Sure.
Jen? Okay. Because I do think it needs it needs a signature.
You want me to leave Bill's name on it?
yeah,
And then
sign for him.
acting chair.
All right, 7:15, public hearing, notice of intent 0 Washington Street, construction of a single-family home. Come on down.
We got one updated plan.
I found you good.
Yeah.
So we had a sidewalk on Saturday, we walked the parcel, we didn't see any big problems. Just you, put your notes.
Yeah, we, and see if you want to put any of these in the special conditions, but, definitely wanted inspections following rain events, given the steepness of the slope. Looking for ground cover in the back to stabilize that, so the area to the left of the house, when looking from the street, that needs to be done early on in the process with riprap to get that stabilized. And, yeah, so the putting in the riprap on that slope first before construction. So I could put gutters in if you want, but would need to direct that flow to hit out onto the riprap. The most appropriate erosion controls for there would be the hay bales and silt fence, as Rochelle wanted to do. Yeah, I think that was it.
Okay. And hay bales and silt fence are shown on the drawing. Okay.
So I missed the sidewalk and I'm looking at the plan, it does show a roof drip edge. Just the comment you had about gutters, what was,
We'd said, what gutters can be put in if that's desired, but the, downslope pipe would have to be directed so it hits out onto the riprap slope, onto the riprap itself as opposed to dirt.
okay.
Yeah.
Alright.
Any other questions or comments? Any public input? All right. So, can I have a motion to issue a order of conditions?
We need to issue an order of conditions.
Do you have a DEP number on this?
Yeah, we just got it. It's 0394.
Okay.
Second for discussion or question, are we waiting for anything else? We got the DEP number, did they have any comments?
No comments.
Okay, not in rare species habitat?
I haven't seen anything.
Okay.
Did I miss something?
I don't know, no, you did not.
Okay. Yeah, as far as I know, there's
Yeah.
nothing outstanding on this.
Okay. All in favor?
Alright,
Alright. So we'll draft the order conditions and send it to you and your consultant, and you can review it, and then if there's no problem, at the next meeting we'll sign it.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Lady.
thank you.
Have a good night.
Motion to continue to our next meeting, which we have to discuss when it is.
Can we do that? I mean, it's be a date certain, right?
Could we interject a discussion of when our next meeting will be?
Or we can just make it the next meeting on the schedule, it doesn't have to be the next meeting. If we have a special meeting in between.
Yeah,
Next regular meeting? I mean, what, I guess what is the question?
we can't meet on September 8th because of primary election. We're barred from meeting
Right,
that day.
right.
The next meeting would actually be September 22nd, it's on their schedule.
Right,
We're going before the Board of Selectmen on September 20th.
but we have to issue the order conditions within 21 days, so
Right,
we're closing the meeting.
and we also, so Bill's asked me about that, and said
Yeah.
we have to have another meeting before, before the election, so.
Okay, yeah.
So
forgot about
the question is, should that be the 15th? Yeah, it would have to be the 15th then.
Okay.
Akashi, can you make it?
Thursday, September 15th? I believe so.
And the agenda for the 15th will just be the selectmen and this, and everything else we can just go this 1 second. Or do you want to rearrange? You want to do it back to back? Or do you want to?
No, I think we have to keep up our regular schedule. This is just an adjustment because, and we'd get in trouble if we didn't have it for various other reasons. And we have things we have to get done. So I'd say we still have the 22nd as normal,
Okay.
so.
Yeah.
Not to mention then the next meeting in October, Bill wants to set aside for bylaw, so.
Okay.
So, I will fill up the meeting on the 15th as if, you know,
I would treat it as a normal
okay.
meeting,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so, motion to continue the hearing on 100-0394 to September 15th.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. We're a couple minutes before 7:30. Any other announcements?
Let's just go over, what are the special conditions that you just went over? You said you want inspections following the rain due to the slope.
Yeah, definitely important to inspect the erosion controls after rain events.
And you want that to be a formal report from them, or that's a condition where I'm gonna be tromping around?
No, they have to
They
inspect.
have to, yeah.
And when you say inspect, you want, you know, photos, report, written, the whole,
No,
Just send us an email. You should send us.
yeah, it's been inspected and everything's fine, there's,
Yeah.
we fixed whatever.
okay.
And then on that slope, when they, I guess, get that filled in, that slope in the back needs to be stabilized, it needs ground cover and stabilization. It needs, whatever would grow, Bill didn't seem to think grass would grow, but, the area to the left definitely needs to be rip-wrapped, that's looking from the street. And
And the
Riprap
ground
should be-
cover and stabilization is the same slope as riprap construction being completed prior to anything else. Yeah, and so the grass,
Well,
you're
it-
talking about will be below the riprap.
yeah,
Okay.
right, you think, George?
Say again?
I wanna make sure I'm visualizing the same thing that you guys are. So the condition is gonna say that the riprap needs to go in first, prior to anything else, and then the slope below the riprap and to either side needs to be stabilized vegetatively,
No,
And
wait,
what-
wait.
or with ground cover, or,
So we
What's
want
that?
that to eventually be stabilized, but the riprap in before
okay,
Yeah,
construction starts.
eventual
Yeah,
vegetative cover.
yeah,
okay.
yeah. So I'd say riprap to stabilize the slope,
Alright,
that
and
slope
then
before construction.
gutters need to be directed to the riprap,
If they're
and,
used, yeah.
you're trusting Rochelle's judgment on the hay bale silt fence erosion control status. And so I'll scratch all that erosion control stuff that I've got in there,
Yeah,
and I'll just sort of let her, I'll write something to the effect of, hay bales and silt fence.
yeah, I think she'd said double stacked hay bales.
Okay. Cool.
Close enough. 7:30, public meeting, request for determination of applicability, 99 Barnum Road, Grove Pond Water Treatment Plant.
Hey, good evening, everyone.
Hello.
I'm Dan Van Skelvik. We met last meeting. I'm from the DPW town engineer. So does everyone have a plan from, the submittal? Okay. So what the DPW is proposing to do is to construct a garage on the existing Grove Pond water treatment site. And that's located off of Barnum Road, kind of on the southeast side of Grove Pond. And so as part of the construction, some of the site grading, the vegetated cover, is within the 100-foot wetland buffer zone. It's approximately 325 square feet that is on the proposed drawing. But the garage itself is located outside of the 100-foot wetland buffer. So I've shown on here some erosion control, which would be silt fence and hay bales is what we have in our specs for that, to protect the existing BMPs downstream, which is a 4-bay grassline channel, and then a detention basin, which was installed during the expansion a couple of years ago. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. Let's see, I noted in the submittal for the WPA Form 1 that you know, a potential exemption could be that what we're going to do with that area that we're going to regrade is just you know, bring it back to existing conditions and replant the vegetative cover that's already there.
You said it's grass now, basically?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're doing the work this year?
It probably won't happen this year. We're gonna request proposals. Actually, I have an RFP out to see what we're gonna get from contractors, and then we'd work with them. Probably next spring it would happen.
This area to the right of the garage, that little quarter circle, is that riprap?
To the
236 line goes through.
236.
This little spot.
Oh yeah, that's existing riprap in that area. That's a flat area up there. Yeah.
Mm.
So the area for grading is just
Yeah, it's the
this
bold
area?
lines.
This area right here? Or?
Yep. Yeah. So where those bold contours kind of reconnect, those are the proposed contours.
And what's the closest distance to the pond, approximately?
Well, the pond is the wetland, the buffer for it. So yeah, there's approximately 100 feet or so
Okay.
to the garage itself. Yeah.
Dan, what is the tight tank or the holding tank?
That's required for the floor drains in the garage.
Okay.
It's part of the building code.
Okay.
So that would just be for floor drainage.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not a septic system or anything?
No,
Okay.
no. We couldn't tie into the on-site sewer, which is ideally what we would do.
Okay.
With a water separator, but because of the elevation change, we can't get out there.
Okay.
It's easier to have a tight tank.
Gotcha.
What type of erosion control are you using?
Silt fence and hay bales is what we're proposing.
So would that be when we'd want wattles instead, or?
I think that'd be easier for you.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I do agree that probably would be easier. So we could do that.
Will that be enough protection based on the extent of the grading and then the slopes that you have?
I think it would be okay. I've spoken to the guys out there, and they've indicated that they have never even seen flow in the BMPs out there. But I could just check and make sure
Okay.
that
Yeah.
that would be adequate. Yeah. So that's a good thing. Not overflow.
I've never even seen flow. I know we've got this summer.
Yeah. Right.
Any other questions, comments?
No.
Mhm. So, have a motion to issue a negative determination?
I move that we issue a negative number 3 determination. That portion of the work is in the buffer zone, but will not alter any resource. From the reader.
So that's the signature for that.
Yeah. Okay, I move that we issue a negative 3 determination that the work described in the request is within the buffer zone as defined in the regulations, but will not alter an area subject to protection under the Act. Therefore, said work does not require the filing of a notice of intent, subject to the following conditions, if any. Any conditions?
Oh,
I don't have any.
No, we'll leave it up to you to decide proper method of erosion control.
Okay.
Okay.
so motion second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Type it up.
Yeah, so I'll just get it later. Okay.
It'll be ready whenever you want it.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay.
All right,
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
I'm gonna go ahead and say we're not gonna have our 7:45.
Okay.
They put in their request, having not read the orders and the rest of their submittals that they needed to get done. And so I said, all right, I'll put you on, because, this was Tuesday morning when they filed the request. And we'll go ahead and say they haven't.
Who filed it?
A title clearing company. The 8 Hemlock is apparently selling. 8 Hemlock is the one with the wetland that was being mowed, that Deshang wanted to put signs up around,
They're selling it?
apparently.
Oh.
So-
And they have 3 orders on that. There's the 2 listed, and then there's also a superseding that, so they've got 3, and they wanted to close on the 1st, which now will be put off.
What did they submit?
Just the request.
Just the Form 9 or whatever, 8?
Just
Form
the
8, okay,
request.
gotcha.
So I gave them the benefit of the doubt, and so now we've got some time to go.
Okay.
All right, so let's talk about weed pull.
Okay. Do you want to swap out, because we do have an actual person, we can,
Can we move them up?
yeah, he's at 8 o'clock too, so,
Seems like everything else is a discussion anyway, so.
yeah.
Okay. Right Road Culver Place Conservation Restriction.
Evening, everyone.
Oh.
How we doing?
So, Mrs. on vacation?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a little inconvenient.
Yeah. So vacations are well deserved, though.
So where do we stand with conservation restriction?
I have an email here from town council. Basically, she took the CR that you had and updated it to line up with the recently released template that was put out 3 or 4 weeks ago. So she reconciled the 2.
Put up by the Executive Office of Environmental Affairs? Is
Bingo.
that- Okay.
And then she basically said, I recommend that the appropriate individual contact the division at the earliest possible time and obtain in writing an extension of the deadlines that AJ is trying to meet. Perhaps this request could be accompanied by redrafts of the CR and declaration in order to show good faith. And she did, redraft the CR.
Who's she in this case? Who's
This is Catherine Lord Klein of KP Law at 10 Arch Street, 12th floor, Boston, Massachusetts,
Catherine with a K?
with a K.
And how do you spell her last name?
Klein.
Okay.
And this is also Catherine with 2 A's. Kath R.
Oh, K-A-T-H-H?
No,
Wait.
T-H-A-R.
K-A-T-H-A-R. Okay.
She also doesn't understand why it's a declaration of restriction and why we're going through that process, since it's essentially duplicative of the CR. And so she'd like a little bit of clarification there, because she suggested that perhaps that document can be eliminated and that process can be dealt with.
Can
So
I-
she has not revised the declaration of restriction,
That's typically a placeholder.
right?
That's correct.
It-
And
it
we're
goes-
moving along
it gets-
parallel pretty quickly.
It gets recorded first, and then once certain milestones are met, then the conservation restriction can then be finalized, and then that takes the place of the declaration. But it provides protection for the land that is intended to be protected while the CR is being, processed.
Right, right.
So that's,
But it's one of the requirements listed, by Fish and Wildlife.
it's a standard requirement for them.
Right,
It's their way of ensuring that they end up with the land protected that they want to protect from the start, but can't get the CR in place at the start because that takes longer and,
right.
doesn't happen until certain milestones are achieved, so.
And, yeah.
So
and
she should do it, then, right?
Yeah, I would
well,
say,
at
yeah,
this rate, We're going to have the CR done before the declaration done.
But then it has to get submitted.
which is rare.
Right.
It's
Because
usually,
it's an
yeah,
oddball thing.
yeah.
Well, I think the CR is gonna take a little bit, because it's like a 60-day review once it's
Yeah.
submitted to them, and the declaration is supposed to be in place prior to that.
Mhm.
What I did is, I just took the already reviewed and approved one from them, changed the ownership names. I uploaded that to Misty, the beginning of the week, with the approved CR plan, with the approved long intent of certification for the signage, and the approved turtle plan. Basing that they already approved this already with the language in it, all I did was change the title.
Yep.
So if that can be in place while we do the restriction, I'm hoping that she agrees to that. And like I said, she was on vacation, and she'll probably check her email when she's back. Because I do believe the CR is gonna take a lot longer than the date that they put on September 1st.
Yeah.
With the scheduling meetings with conservation and selectmen and approvals by her as well, so, I'm hoping that the already approved declaration can be, in place in the meantime until we hash out these.
Yeah, I think everything you've described is exactly what they want you to do, and so as long as Misty Ann doesn't have any problem with the language itself, then that should be fine. I think legally a declaration of restriction isn't forever,
Correct.
in the same way that a conservation restriction is forever. So it's a temporary thing until you get to the point where the CR is finalized, which, as we all know, can take a long time. So,
So she should do that, yeah.
So the one detail that might further complicate this is that, let's see. Please note that, in my opinion, the town cannot be a grantee on the declaration of restriction without a town meeting vote. This would need to be addressed.
This is fine,
Yeah.
okay. Cannot be a declaree on the
Great.
Grantee.
grantee, on the CR.
It's the section, first sentence, first and two sentences at the top. And Robert has that email, and yeah, so a little detail to clean up. I don't know how that works or why she thinks that way, but
yeah, I don't either. I don't.
no, that's what lawyers are for.
But the declaration of restriction's a temporary thing.
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
why is-
I don't know.
Yeah.
She may have typoed it, like maybe she thinks that it's CR rather than the, she just mixed her documents up. But,
The- The already one, the CR and the declaration that was previously reviewed and approved by National Heritages, was that approved by Air Conservation? The previous one that was already reviewed and approved?
No.
it may have come through once or twice, but
It
there's
hasn't been
nothing in the
finalized.
minutes or, yeah. And
So it shouldn't have been forwarded to them without town approval? Because both these documents are already reviewed and approved by National Heritage back in
I don't know,
3-4
Tom,
years
do you have
ago.
your memory of how they did things
Yeah.
Yeah.
10 years ago?
This is 4 years.
I don't recall ever seeing it.
We,
I think ultimately it doesn't really matter what the town says if natural heritage isn't okay with it, so they definitely have to, you know, approve it, but then,
My question is that both the recordable plan was reviewed and approved on 7/5/11. The declaration of restriction was approved, reviewed and approved on 7/5/2011.
mhm.
And the conservation restriction was reviewed, approved, on 7/5/11
Okay.
by National Heritage. Did those documents go through Ayer first before they got submitted?
We discussed things in February and April. So on February 10th of 2011, Scott Smyers had asked for a letter from the town indicating its interest in holding the CR. Bill said we supported it and said Oxbow should at that time prepare a draft of the CR.
The draft that they reviewed, the state?
Presumably. And then in February 24th, that wasn't about the CR. Yeah, and I think it was then up to, wasn't it up to the applicant to come back to us
I think so.
about the CR, and I think they never did follow through.
Yeah.
They did look through everything.
But this time they're asking the town to approve it first before it goes into the state. This sounds like the state approved it first. That's why I'm trying to find out like what the actual protocol is I just wanna make sure that the state already reviewed these documents and
Yeah.
approved it prior. Does that fall under the Permanent Extension Act, that the subdivision was already pre-approved and those permits are still in place?
I don't think we ever took a formal vote ourselves.
Yeah, I don't recall.
Yeah, and CR,
think-
I don't think a CR would fall under a permit extension, because
Yeah, it's not a,
it's a different creature.
yeah, it's not a permit.
Because what Misty asked me to do was just update the new owners to the ones that are already reviewed and approved, and update it to the new form and send it back, assuming that these were already reviewed by the town. So, my question is, did that happen? I don't know if that happened.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the way it should work, and I'm guessing this will be the way it will work.
Mhm.
Hopefully, it'll all work out. Is that in terms of the nuts and bolts of how the land is protected, it has to meet the requirements for natural heritage to say, okay, this project is occurring in rare species habitat, but because of the conservation restriction and turtle protection and all that, we're okay with it. They have to agree to that first, and then it should come back to the town to approve the legal documents, and then it goes up to the Division of Conservation Services at the Executive Office of Environmental Affairs. They're the ultimate arbiters of conservation restrictions under Article 97. The way the general laws are written. So I think that's the process. In this case, the CR is required by the Conservation Management Permit under the Endangered Species Act. So Natural Heritage has to be okay with everything first. The town has to agree to the legal structure of the CR and agree to hold it.
Kicks up.
And then it goes to the Executive Office for the state's ultimate endorsement of it as an official state sanctioned restriction that then has multiple layers of protection that pretty much guarantees that it will be a permanent covenant.
How many conservation restrictions is the town holding currently?
Officially right now, probably just one, right?
No, there's 1, 2, there's Orion.
That's true,
there's,
right? Yeah.
Pondview,
I think they have 3 upstairs.
there's one other one.
Orion, Pondview, and then Autumn Ridge, right?
Right.
And those are all approved and done?
Yeah, I believe so.
Then this process is the same.
Yeah,
Well, like,
I think so. Yeah.
Every so often, like the thing that was reconciled was that the executive office put out a new template, only just in the last few weeks. And so we want to make sure that we give them something that looks up to date, as opposed to trying to give them something that's, you know, the last version. So she, you know, that kind of thing happens every so often, but the process was probably fairly similar.
I would think so, yeah, it's
And
pretty
the town-
standard,
The town's holding those ones as well?
Yes.
yeah.
Okay. There's also an application
Yeah,
that has some other documentation that needs a sign off from conservation, and, there's some inspection report that needs to happen too, and I have that going, but I'm not sure if that's required as well, because that's a whole nother approval process, other than the restriction that has to happen as well. So
What application are you
The
referring to?
conservation restriction application.
Yeah, that's the one that,
Yeah.
is,
that always sneaks up on it.
Yeah.
yeah,
So that also needs conservation approval and, field inspection signed off
right.
by conservation. So that process has to happen before the restriction gets approved as well, so that's a whole nother.
Yeah, and that application
Approval
goes to the Division of Conservation Services at, in Boston, the executive office, so,
Now,
yeah.
that application that I have here currently is, at what point does the town do the field inspection, report, and at what point does the town sign off on the application as well? Is it after all the language and restriction is agreed upon and is in place? Do we have to do this simultaneously with the restriction? I just don't want to get the restriction approved, and I have to go back to all the meetings to get this approved.
Right.
So that's gonna take some time as well, and,
I think it's, you know, my take is that it would be simplest and easiest to try to do both signings at the same time. And then those sorts of, you know, if-then questions, we can just skip them.
okay.
But, you know, the baseline documentation or the inspection or however we're gonna call it,
Yeah,
that is you know, the question of the hour.
but that's gonna be driven by that process, so there should be a contact, person on there. It used to be Nicole Sicard, but I don't know if she's still there. I would just run those same questions by somebody at the Division of Conservation Services to give you the best answer.
Did you have to do these conservation restriction field inspections for the other ones? Is that the same process, this application was done on the other ones? Like, who does the inspection? Do I have to come and apply to Brian to come do it? There's like a checklist here that has to happen, and I just don't know if I can do this now and not have to wait. Is that something we can do now while we're going through the motions? And there's also another sign-off page, for the Conservation Commission, and this also has to get signed as well. And does that have to get signed only when this application is complete? So I'm just trying to get the process down, so I don't wanna waste everyone's time.
No, those are good questions. I would, if I were you, I'd direct them to whoever's name is on that form.
But the process you guys already done, is that what we've done in the past? How was this happening, what was happening in the past to get this done?
Well, I think the only thing that we would necessarily see is whatever the applicant brings forward to us. So obviously, when there's a final CR that they want us to sign off on, you know, we'll do that after reviewing it. I think a lot of the legwork, you know, is up to the applicant to do. So when you're submitting your application to the Division of Conservation Services, I think it's up to I think it's incumbent on the applicant to be able to check off the boxes and then.
So if the state comes back and says I need to fill the application out, at what point do we do the field inspection, and at what point do we have this page signed off by the Conservation Commission? Is it after the CR has already been reviewed and approved? Could we do it simultaneously?
I think we'd be amenable to doing whatever makes the most sense, as Brian said,
Okay.
but we're not the sort of drivers of that process.
Right,
So-
but I think like one question, because this is an application to the state
Right,
rather than an application to us.
right.
And we, you know, the thing that we have to sign off on here is just a statement that says, this is for the good of the environment and the good of the town, and we therefore agree.
We agree to hold
We
the
could
CR, we agree to
theoretically
the
sign
terms
that
of the
right
CR.
now. Easy enough, because he doesn't have the full package complete, that's just sort of one piece of it. The baseline documentation question though is tricky because, for instance, we're trying to do a separate CR right here, and the baseline documentation is what's been holding us up, because I don't have enough time to do it, and these guys went out, this past weekend to try to do it, and felt that they weren't up to the requirements.
The other,
George can speak.
one of the other CRs that we have a group of local volunteers who do the baseline documentation for us, so, on Ridge.
Well, the monitoring.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, so, I mean,
But in
It-
this
it-
case, to move this forward, it's the baseline documentation, so if we're gonna hold it,
Yeah.
the best thing to do is for us to do the baseline work.
the CR will often specify or recommend who does that, so, and I,
I don't think this one did, I don't remember
Okay.
that detail. But if you end up waiting for us, I suspect that piece will drag, because we're having trouble doing it on a smaller parcel that's simpler. And that parcel has more corners and more hills and more private land that, on the other side of your land, or not Burns' land, that looks exactly the same.
Yep.
And so, you know, it might be simpler for you to hire that job out to somebody else and get it done, even though the best thing for us to do, because we'll be responsible for monitoring it, is to go out and do it ourselves so that we can see it ourselves and we can walk it ourselves. But,
I just I wouldn't know where to start to do that.
yeah, that's okay, neither do we.
Yeah, we're sort of worrying about this, but,
I just see this not, you know, the process that's gonna take to get this done is just gonna, it's gonna be months.
Yeah.
I think, and all I
Well,
wanna
the
do is.
baseline is like a day's work,
Yeah.
and then there's a bunch, it's basically somebody walking out, making sure they're on the right side, taking pictures, saying at each picture where they are and what's there,
Mhm.
so that in 5 years, if somebody, parks their
Does something,
ATV,
Yeah.
we know where and why and how.
So, some changes need to be made, some to the restriction on the updated document.
Yeah, and
This
these
is-
are updates, they're pretty, it's not such a big deal.
So that gets reviewed at the
Mhm.
next meeting, which is end of September.
No, September 15th.
15th.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be September 8th,
Okay.
but the state says it's a primary election, you can't hold public meetings, so.
Is there anything I need to do for the restriction that I can be working on now, or is?
I think the only thing on your end is, we need to make sure that Misty officially extends your deadlines.
Mhm.
And then, if you are interested in getting the baseline work done, you're already working with Oxbow,
Mhm.
maybe, ask them about that service. And, maybe we can get that ball rolling, because we haven't figured out this yet and how to, we should sub a CR.
So ask Oxbow to do the baseline documentation.
Potentially.
Yeah. They're very familiar with the site.
They know the land already. They've
Mhm.
probably got, they've probably wandered it a
Oh,
dozen
they're
times.
once a week, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It might be simpler. I know it would be simpler. I just know that would be imposing another cost.
I think my goal is, and like you guys' opinion as well, is if I get the required stuff to get back into compliance, which I think the end date was like September 1st, getting back in. If we show that we're moving forward and if we have the declaration in place and the conservation restriction is getting worked on, and 4 out of the 5 things are complete, I think, I don't want to rush this either because I'm not familiar with it, and I want to make sure everyone's happy with it as well. And I think if I present that to Misty that we're working with it and working together to get it done, I'm hoping that will get me back into compliance at that point.
Sounds reasonable.
Yeah. I'll look into Oxbow to see if, what is entailed for the baseline. I just don't know what to tell them. I mean, so what, I mean, what are they actually doing?
They'll know
Yeah.
how to do
Okay,
a baseline, yep.
okay,
They've done them before.
okay.
So that is an in-house service.
So if I were you, I would just ask them to give you a cost estimate for what it might cost to do that, so you know what,
Well, it's
It's
not,
gonna cost.
there's cost as well.
there will be cost, yeah, but if, you said they're out there anyways, right?
They are.
Yeah, so it's something they could probably just work into whatever their,
They wouldn't have
Schedule
to
is-
be brought up to speed.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, they would be able to do it much more readily than anyone else.
So.
And probably much more
Is
cheaply.
it more just documenting the land currently as it is, pictures and stuff like that, putting it on paper? And
Yeah,
just put-
exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
It's really
And,
gonna be a snapshot in 10 or 20 or 50 page form.
Okay.
Yeah, and I used to work for them, and I know that we I used to do those, so
So you know they'll have that.
so they'll be able to whip that out pretty quickly since they already are very familiar with your site. So that's one option of
Well, I'll reach out to
Since-
Scott and see what it entails.
yeah.
And,
and then just one question on the turtle barrier.
hmm?
I mean, turtles, I mean, the barrier across the top of the street, that's supposed to be put in place when traffic's not going back and forth during the day? Is that how they work?
It depends. Some barriers are to keep the animals from entering a work area,
Yeah.
so they don't get harmed, and others are designed to keep them in a certain place. But
Typically what we've been doing is this, the work is going in and out of the house daily. We move them in the morning, we put them back in the
yeah,
At the end of the
at the
day?
end of the
So
day.
is that sufficient then for natural heritages?
I don't know what their specific requirements are, but that's it sounds like it would be, you know, for a discrete work area. That's how you keep the turtles out. So.
Scott and his team's been out, weekly, and they haven't, and it's
Yeah.
been open when they come and they have the things.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I can ask the
That's-
question.
Yeah.
You know,
No, I-
yeah.
Okay.
They, with, their last couple inspections, they placed, pieces of plywood around the silt fence area for a shaded area, if there is any turtles in the vicinity to, and they've done 2 inspections since then, haven't found anything yet. They did find 3 weeks ago an old nest, but it was a snapping turtle nest. It was over like 18 eggs, and it looked like a raccoon got it, and documented and sent it to Misty, but that's the only findings we've found to date right now.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay, anything else?
No, it sounds like you're good. Yeah.
I did get the order conditions, they're gonna record it tomorrow,
Nice.
so I'll have those back to you as well. And I did send over to Misty the 4 things I did have completed. I'm gonna bring the actual wet stamped and drawings down to her next week, and have a meeting with her as well. I'm hoping that we can discuss the progress of the restriction, and hopefully she'll let me get back in compliance for the October 1st date, restart date.
So October 1st, you want to restart in the other lots?
The other lots, yeah.
Because
That's the
when
end
turtle
of,
season.
that's the end
Yeah.
of the, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Okay, and so I will. I'll keep the declaration rolling then.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
In the meantime, like I said, I did send the one that was already approved with the new names,
Right.
just to have it in place with her until if we revise that one, I could send that one to her as well.
All right. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for your time, everyone, appreciate it.
I mean, tell town council we need it, you still by the 8th or something.
Oh yeah, no,
just so-
they know they're.
Don't tell them the 15th, because they'll wait until the 16th.
Well, the conversations we've been having is, they need to finish their work for us so that we can sign it. For we came to signing it, so it's ready for the next selectmen's meeting.
That's the next one.
Which is the 20th, or no, which is,
So the
Sixth, I
6th
think,
is the
the
next one,
6th.
so we're gonna miss that. So then now our goal is that I wanna have these settled up
yeah,
prior to the 15th, so that we could theoretically sign off on them
yeah,
and then send them to the selectmen on the 20th.
the 20th,
So that's sort of the next deadline
Yeah.
for council.
yeah. I'll always give them earlier deadlines.
Well, I mean, Katie and I now are on first name basis here,
Okay. All right.
so I'll let her know. but yeah, rolling right along.
I'll try to find out about the application too, what's required.
Yeah, and
Yeah, I
the
mean,
signature part we have to do. Is there any other signatures besides town council? Do we need selectmen signatures in there?
The selectmen's just on the CR. No. I'll double check though, bro,
Okay.
make sure.
And those were the two outstanding questions in the application, the monitoring report, the baseline, and the signatures.
Yeah, and it attached like the locus plan and the other permits that were attached to the restriction, and so,
Okay.
yeah, that's all, I have all that as well.
And then just for the sake of clarity, when would you guys like to sign? You want the baseline done prior to signing? Or would you be okay signing his application prior to the baseline being done?
It's a good question, I don't know if the application can go in before the restriction is done, so maybe this.
Right, you can't go, it can't be submitted in either case unless it's.
So I might have to sign both at the same time, like you said, and I think they'll be fine.
Yeah.
But I'll ask a question, I'll see.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, no, those are all good questions, but I would direct those to the state so
Yeah.
that, yeah, they can give you the best
Okay.
answer.
Alright, so we're deferring.
Yeah, well, it's just not our process, so
Okay.
That's all new to me too.
That's
so.
good,
Yeah.
so basically he wants that question answered, and we won't answer. Clarity.
we don't know the answer, I guess. But
As soon as I get that recording, I'll drop those off.
Brilliant.
Well, thank you for everyone's time, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you on the 15th?
Yeah.
15th? Okay.
all right.
Thank you.
Okay. Any more bear sightings back there?
Any what?
Bear sightings?
Just the one about a month ago.
Since our last site, since we did our site walk?
No, not since that one. No.
Okay.
Oh, a couple of months ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
So-
I was. Frames have been there for 5 weeks, so it was like 6 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, I was standing on top of my foundation when I saw him.
Cool.
But he's around.
Yeah, I would like to see them.
See you guys.
Take care.
Alright.
Let's go right into the Sandy Pond 3 restriction.
I have that reconciled and happy. If you'd like to sign it, we can do that. We obviously don't have the baseline set up. If you'd like to have a look at that, but
We
once,
should probably wait till we have a full contingent here to sign.
fair enough.
Since it's a perpetual document.
And so,
So
the same edits were done, that was reconciled with the current executive office version. of
okay.
things.
So who's vetted this? The
Town
executive
council.
town council and executive office?
No, so Natural Heritage has vetted it
Okay.
after our town council
Okay.
reconciled it with the current executive office
Okay.
template.
Okay.
And
Is-
so,
Is that the only copy?
well,
you-
I've got an electronic copy, but that's the only one I
Okay.
wrote down because you know what we're doing with it is we've got the baseline question outstanding.
Okay.
Um,
Can you email it or?
Yeah.
Just so we can have a chance to read it before we
Yeah.
have to sign it.
So,
And I'll email out the version of it that's not cleaned up. There's a couple of portions that she highlighted, you know, not necessarily understanding some of the details, and there were a couple of comments on the side that all were, you know, relatively speaking, they're good questions, but they weren't relevant to the context. But I'll send you that version of things anyway, so you can see the full legal thinking.
And the one that's gonna be signed, along with the one that's gonna be
Oh
signed.
yeah, like a clean and a not so clean guy, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's that, but so yeah, what's the story?
when we got out there, we really couldn't figure out, where we were and where things were supposed to be. That drawing we had was, not that accurate. So, rather than try and guess, Bill thinks we should get a surveyor. The question I have is, when Mr. Murray was here before talking about it, there was the conservation restriction, and there was also be land that was gonna be deeded to the town. Which land is that?
So when you drive in Mountain Laurel, on your left, there are the 3 house lots that were never built,
Right.
that were where they put in the turtle fence. And currently, those 3 lots are owned by Sandy Pond Estates LLC. They paid their first quarter taxes. Have the proof. I looked into this. I expect those are the 3 that he would like to deed to the town, because separately I had a conversation with his representative, who told me that Sandy Pond LLC doesn't exist, and so they won't be applying. They won't be turning this into the state forest. They'll sign a document if they need us, if we need them to sign a document, but they won't be doing any more than that, because
This is Dave Murray.
no, this was his legal representative saying this.
Okay.
So I was very confused about that, because
And these are to the left when you drive in.
so where I stand with this is that I need Natural Heritage to come back from vacation and and find out what, who, how the application process happens. You know, if it turns out that, you know, the person you know, the building office just pays the taxes out of some common account and doesn't really look at which company, quote unquote, legally is paying them, you know, or if they really are coming from the Sandy Ponds LLC checkbook, you know, that's gonna distinguish. And I don't know when this LLC supposedly, you know, vanished into thin air and, you know, ceased to exist, because on the website for the building company, it's still there at the bottom. And so, you know, I need to find out if that lawyer essentially is either bluffing or doesn't know what he's talking about, in terms of, you know, them not, them going from playing nicely to playing less nicely. But I don't want to do any of that until we get the baseline reconciled, because that is our responsibility at this point. And I'd like to have our work settled up before I go chasing somebody else down to do their work. You know, because, you know, I don't want them to say, well, you haven't done something, and pull that over our head, and then, you know, use it to, you know, duck and weave and suddenly vanish.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't been out there in a long time, but if it wasn't built according to what it was supposed to do, I don't think it makes sense to do a baseline documentation
Yeah.
first, just to document that it wasn't built. I think we already know that it wasn't built right.
Well,
I think, like you suggested, and I'm still confused about the land to be donated. So originally we were just going to get a CR on a portion of the land.
Right.
Right.
I'm not sure what portion.
Yeah. And so now,
Now, he was talking about donating, I guess that whole area on the left as you come in.
but that hasn't been brought up since then. That has not re-arisen. And so I think until somebody on that side of the table brings it up again, I think we can safely assume that that's not gonna happen anytime in the near future.
whether it does or not, we still need to know. I think before we can do a baseline, we need to know what we're documenting. Right?
Well, so I had Dave out from Natural Heritage, you know, a couple of weeks ago when I was still full-time, and we had a conversation to the effect of the inconsistencies between the planned document, between the planned development and the actual development, to just more or less ignore them. And
So,
he's
yeah.
signing the document the way it is because to start from scratch again isn't gonna work.
Dave Murray said that?
No,
Or
natural heritage.
Natural Heritage, okay.
I kind of disagree with that. If we're taking on,
Well, so the reason he said to just go ahead and do it is that,
Which
Um,
email, Dave Murray one?
no, Dave,
Paulson.
Okay.
He basically said this is small ball. It won't, it's not a big enough deal to actually sick, you know, their.
well, he's
time
speaking
constraint.
from his perspective. I mean, that's more work for them. But if we're the ones who are going to be responsible for something, we need to know what that is. In my opinion, it can't be. We need to know what the discrepancy is between what was intended and what exists out there now.
And,
So
well, I suppose then if this is something that we as a body wanna take on and clean up legally, we're not gonna get any help. You know, the Natural Heritage, you know, they have a
Yeah.
legal team that's yay big, that's.
yeah, they have limited staff, and that's fine. Yeah.
So, you know, fair enough, you can, the simplest way to do that, honestly, is Exhibit A on the back. If a land surveyor actually went out and did a survey and corrected that to be, proper, then the rest of the document will line up.
Yeah. So I think to George's point, we need to get a survey out there
Maybe David E. Ross or somebody.
and
Yeah.
do a survey. I mean, that,
It's under 10,000, or whatever, so we don't need to
Yeah.
put it up for bid or anything like that.
So then the next question becomes, is that coming out of the town general fund, the legal fund? I mean, how, I've
well,
obviously
we'll have to
a
figure that
problem
out.
with
But I mean, I definitely am not gonna
Okay.
agree to sign anything or take on responsibility for something that isn't what isn't what we're signing up for. So I guess
Okay, so, thinking forward, okay, let's say we've got a surveyor who goes out, gets the lay of the land for the undeveloped land, and as close to that, conservation restriction plan, the big map that, you know, you guys had out there, as close as he can, gets it. So then what changes in the fine print in the submittals becomes, what we would be asking for would be a new plan of land, a new visual.
a plan,
Right.
yeah, an
we-
as-built, if you will. Or,
Right,
yeah.
exactly, yeah. And so then we change the language in here to integrate the new as-built. And we change the language in here on Exhibit A so that we actually have a written description of the land. And then that, assuming natural heritage has no qualms with how we go about doing that, you know, David Murray's not gonna care.
Right.
And then we've got it. And then it's just establishing what the price tag for that would be, and then convincing our in-house purse strings to open up. That sound more or less like what I'll be asking for, and the path I'll be taking, the logic I'll be following, and
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
If we had to, could we pay for this out of the wetland fund?
No.
No, it's administration and enforcement of the Wetland Protection Act.
This is coming out of the Endangered Species Act, state law, so we can't.
Do I need to bid this out? You said no.
Yes. Get
multiple
quotes so we
just
know
for
what we're
fun.
talking about.
Yeah.
There could be some ways to help defray the cost if we know what the cost is,
Mhm.
and then yeah.
Good. I like this. I'll ask for monumentation.
Definitely.
So so I documentation after they go out and do their best reconcilable job with what's on paper and what's on the ground, and then craft something new on paper and monument. Those are the two deliverables I'm looking for.
Yes.
Sounds reasonable.
Okay, and then I can, or 3 deliverables if they can fix this for me, so that's appropriate, and then I will go back through this and, do a, find and replace kind of approach to things.
And then we would still need to do the baseline documentation after that, right? Unless the land surveyor could do it.
Right.
Well,
But,
that's
but, again, to George's point, it's a lot easier to do that if you know where you're starting from.
Yeah, you got the monuments.
Yeah.
well, and so then, to the same point, we've got to see how much money we spend on this, and then, that conversation will be flowing in the selectman's office, and so then we can say, we can finish this job in-house, and it will take this long or cost this much or whatever. I don't know, like, let's say it takes me 3 days of my own time to sit and just write this thing out. We can do the math real quick, say, oh, that's a grant.
Mhm.
If we put it out of house, it's $1,500. How do you want to? That's in.
Of course, by the end of October, we may have
Well,
an
yeah,
improved situation.
which would be nice. That'd be easy. But things are never easy. They never work out that well. All right, but I've got a logical progression here, and it sounds like you all are on the same page, and I'm not making anything up, and I'm not misinterpreting, and
Nope.
good. All right, so then I'm going to put this away. I'm going to drop this off. No, I shouldn't say that. This will just become a perpetual discussion for the next 3 months.
Till it's finally done, right?
Yeah.
So who would you contact for getting cost estimates?
In all likelihood, I will get in touch with Steve Mulaney. I will get in touch with Rob Oliva, and I'll get in touch with Nick.
So, Mulaney, Higby Ross, and GPR. That's good.
Any alternative requests? Any favorites? Oxbow?
They don't do servers like that.
Hmm.
If you're looking for a 4th, I'll give you a 4th, but I don't.
What
That's
about
just-
Meisner Brown?
No.
No?
If you want a 4th alternative, I'll send me an email and
No, I mean,
Did
if you
you-
like the first 3,
the first 3 are fine.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's, yeah.
Okay.
All right. Weeple.
Weed pull. So, Martha Morgan of the Nashua River Watershed, I've been talking to for the last several months about my concerns with arsenic uptake in water chestnuts, and she came out to visit the site with me on Tuesday. We pulled 2 plants. I'm going to bring those plants to a professor at Wellesley College who will stick some undergrads on it, and they'll do some lab analysis. I don't know when that'll get done. Maybe October or November if I'm lucky. But I've got the plants, I've got the samples. So the evaluation that Martha had was that it's a good small batch. You can eyeball what looks like everything, and you get to 30 plants maybe. So assuming there's double that tucked away where you can't see. It's a smallish patch, and the seeds are all just sitting there ready to go. The water chestnuts there, they when we pulled them out, 1 or 2 fell off, so like they're ready to pop. So her opinion was that they probably are not a problem with arsenic because it's so far sort of upstream from where the source of the arsenic pollution.
That's
comes
not
from.
true. There's
Well-
naturally occurring arsenic all over the ponds, so.
True.
So,
So it may have elevated, but it may not be like a toxic waste.
well, no, it's,
Well, this is her opinion.
yeah, so,
And
We need to know that before we start polling, in my opinion. So.
the other opinion that she had was that there's a lot of vegetation between the downstream and the upstream, and so there's another buffer as well. Anyway, so I came back to the office feeling like, all right, you know, maybe there's a chance that something could happen, you know, this is nice, and then Marion, right, Marion,
This time.
Marion Stoddard was in talking to Alan about rail trail, bike racks and all that, and, you know, she was like, so what are you up to? And I was like, oh, just came back, what do you know, because you founded the organization and did all this great work. And so she was like, oh, I would like to see that. And we ended up in essentially a position where she was like, I will come out on Saturday and pull these. And I said, well, okay. All right, you know, I was like, fair enough. You know, this is momentum, this is action, and I'm not gonna say no to it. Especially a woman of her ilk. You know, it felt a little bit like being double dared.
Did she go out to the area to look at everything?
Mm-hmm.
So,
And so the current plan in my mind is to go out and buy some latex gloves, you know, and hand them out to everybody, and find a place in the DPW parking lot to let the plants desiccate. And when I get my results back from Wellesley on the content of arsenic in the plant, then I can figure out disposal properly. Mark Wetzel has said that that's fine. You know, he'll find me a trash can and I can just stick them in the corner for a while. And yeah, so this looks like, oh, and Marion's bringing 2 kayaks, and I have 3 laundry hampers from NRWA up in the office for floating alongside. Most of the water is in the knee-deep to hip-deep vicinity. There's some town land out there that we can park next to that says no parking. You know, it looks doable, and, you know, if there were 3, 4, 5 people that show up, and there's 3 or 4 kayaks, it's probably an hour's work, give or take. The potential problems are, this is open water where we're looking, and just up and just downstream is some thicker vegetation. So to go knocking about in there to see if there are isolated populations of chestnut, you know, potentially, you know, that could be troublesome if there are some things, but it really, really is hardly anything there, and it'd be nice to keep it that way. And it appears momentum has overtaken me, and I'm just flowing with the downstream metaphor.
You're also kicking up some sediment, which
Well, I hope not. I
I
hope not. What do you, when you mean sediment, you mean soil? Or you mean
yeah, I mean
arsenic?
the issue with Grove Pond, and you know, this has come up a number of times, and it's why I was reluctant to do anything, including just doing chemical treatment, is there, especially in the sediment, there are super high concentrations of heavy metals. If that sediment never gets disturbed, it's kind of inert, and that's okay.
Right.
To just sort of leave it as status quo. If you're saying, hey, volunteers, come and wade in over here and kick up the sediment, I just have a problem with that, just because we don't know enough about whether it really is
Yeah.
first of all, a personal safety hazard, but also, I mean, the other problem I have is just potentially exposing the whole town to a huge liability of becoming a responsible party for, you know, a release of whatever, chromium or
Yeah.
arsenic, molybdenum, whatever's out there. It might not be at that spot where the water chestnuts are, but we don't know that.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that you collected some samples, but I wouldn't do anything until we get the results back. That's just my personal opinion.
I can see that point, although, I mean, water chestnuts, you want to nip it in the bud.
Sure. No, absolutely. I think we're all on board with trying to prevent infestations of invasives and when we notice them to control them before they become.
How deeply rooted are
Uncontrollable.
they in sediment?
Not really. The two that we pulled had a lot of root in the water column, and when we pulled them, there were no like puffs, and we were rubber boot deep, and we didn't see anything come up. So the assumption, it's not exactly crystal clear water, but if you're pulling from like a foot of water, 8 inches of water, and you pull up on something, I would have expected something, and we definitely stirred up more soil standing in the water than pulling things out. The just to address, the personal toxicity thing, I think can be managed in the sense that the removal method is, a leaf rig. You hook, you pull, you bring it over to your bucket, and you dump. And so you don't actually ever have to touch the plant. The potential liability question, that I got nothing. Like I got nothing. I don't know how that. I have no good or bad ideas on how to address it.
Right. I don't necessarily have any good ideas, but we do work for the town, and we have to
Right.
Protect the town's interests, or not expose the town to
Right.
undue risk or liability. I don't know what that is. Maybe there's nothing. Maybe
Right.
you
This is an
can.
abundance
Maybe
of caution.
maybe you are allowed to disturb highly contaminated sediment for the purpose of pulling a few weeds and not end up being a.
So the one detail
you know.
that might be relevant to this is that Martha, one of her early jobs was actually doing sampling, and one of her first jobs was the tannery, and so she was here 20 years ago, evaluating the same soils for the same toxins, and so when she kind of poo-pooed the upstream flow, that lent it a little bit of weight, because she'd been there in the past and she knew the site fairly well, and she understood much more about the issue at hand than a normal river advocate type person.
I also worked at Fort Devens, which is a Superfund site, which included Grove Pond. So-
yeah. So you're coming at it from the same space.
Yes.
Yeah.
But then again, the only signs we have at Grove Pond are don't eat the fish.
Right.
We don't say don't go in the water, we don't say no wading, no swimming, no diving.
True. But there's a difference between not saying don't do it and recruiting volunteers to do it, I guess.
Does Robert know about this?
paying-
Does Robert know about this?
I went down to talk to him about it, and he was out for the day. But when I wrote up so I talked to Carly, and when I wrote up a big email, saying, hey, this is the story, I put Robert on the email and Carly on the email.
Is Robert in tomorrow?
Theoretically, I don't know for sure, but it'll be an easy enough thing
So,
Orienteering's coming, so I gotta keep it. Orienteering is
oh,
coming.
yeah.
Um,
Do
so.
you have any opinion?
I would defer.
So, thinking about how to address the risk. You know, so like the safety meeting, that theoretically I'm gonna stand there and conduct it at 9 o'clock, assuming this all goes forward and it doesn't, you know, fall apart for any number of reasons, including nobody showing up. You know, the rule is gonna be, don't touch it, because we don't actually know what's in it. This is potentially hazardous. We want to encourage all safety levels, you know, just to be like blunt and upfront about the toxicity issues and questions, and that we don't have any good understanding at this point, and we've reached out to gain some understanding, but until we have any, you know, we would recommend don't touch anything, and don't kick anything, and don't drink anything, and, you know, like, you know, tiptoe around the whole thing, and see if they stay or not.
Make him sign a waiver.
Yeah,
No, waivers are worthless. I mean, they're not, but
if you have to tell them all those things up front, you probably shouldn't be doing it, in my opinion. I mean, if you really are that unsure about,
well, that's the thing. I don't
Yeah.
know what to be sure about. You know, because
well, and we need to, I think we need to become a little more sure about what we ought and ought not be doing before we take advantage of Marion's enthusiasm to do it.
so that's the thing.
Because she's obviously not thinking about the sediments.
Well, and that's the thing I'm having trouble letting go of is, you know, enthusiasm for volunteer moments. It's hard to come by, and I'm having a lot of trouble letting go of that and
You
setting
know
it
the
free.
adage, though, haste makes waste.
Yeah.
We just don't want it to be toxic waste, and that's what I'm worried about. So, and it might not be, you know, but
And that's-
until we know, I'm just uncomfortable with it.
So, I suppose at this point, you know, I started this fire, and is this something that we want to do an official vote on, saying go for it or don't go for it? Or is this something that you want to leave up to me to figure out? Or is this something that you want to leave up to me to talk to Robert about? You know, who's going to be the deciding?
We are, but we don't know enough to know.
Well, right, but so like, do you want to say, all right, shut it down, call it, too bad, it'll be on next year's to-do list after we get the chemistry done, and if we have 100 plants or 200 plants, well, so be it. You know, we're willing to accept that potential problem. You know, or do you want to say, recognizing the risk, you know, if volunteers took appropriate precautions and this didn't set off any red flags with Robert and Carly about, you know, any exposure of the town to liability. They said, okay, then okay, go for it and take precautions. Or you want to say, well, you know what, you're a big boy, let's see how you play this. You know, like what's the pleasure of the board, if you will?
Well, I'll probably try and get an opinion from Robert and Carly.
In tech council.
Yeah, they want us to,
Or the insurance company. I mean,
yeah. I mean, it does seem like if we do want that, it should be deferred just a little bit at least. 2 weekends.
The other point is,
Oh, they'll be gone in 2 weekends, the seeds will all be popped.
Seeds will be popped.
what if, we pick all these things, set them aside, and find it's gonna cost $15,000 to dispose of them?
That's where the big boy steps up.
So, if we pick, say, 50 plants out of the pond and it costs $15,000 to dispose of them, that means if we went to next year to pick 200, it's gonna cost $100,000 to dispose of them.
So, and then her greater interest is in preventing the spread of these seeds downriver, down through into the national.
Well, that and water chestnut has a habit of being a watershed jumper.
Yeah, so
and
it can go
so-
backwards as well.
You know,
Is it possible just to go out in a kayak and snip off the seed heads?
no, because if you can think of a pineapple, the way that they're kind of connected in those diamond-shaped patterns, the seeds and the base of the leaves fit into each other very similarly. So that would be much more work and much more potential risk and exposure. They float on top of the water, and then they have one trailing root down to the ground, and so that's why you can kind of scoop in under with the leaf rake and pick the whole thing up, and then you can just drop it into a floating basket.
That thing you said a few months ago.
Very complete
So,
with the files you
Takashi,
get.
what do you think?
I don't know. Like I said, I worked at Fort Devens for the Army, under EPA oversight, under Superfund. And so perhaps I'm more sensitive to not creating
You're more abundantly cautious.
yeah. I guess just I think talking to Robert probably a good first step, but I don't know that Robert or Carly necessarily would know enough about
Mhm.
They don't know enough
all of the
about
issues that they need to know about.
But they would know about risk aversion, liability risk
Yeah.
aversion.
They have that ingrained into the DNA.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Given the time, that I guess that automatically means deferring.
Okay.
Say that again.
Given the time schedule, it's the day after tomorrow,
Yeah.
then we probably automatically have to defer it.
Yeah.
There's no way we could.
And we're not gonna get all the answers we need by Saturday. So.
Alright, so we're gonna hit reply all and reschedule this for, the last weekend in July of next year.
I think we just need to know.
No, I just mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Postpone indefinitely till we better understand the potential risks involved. I mean,
Fair
that's
enough.
what it comes down to.
Yeah.
It is really hard to let go of enthusiasm.
I don't know.
Like, what else can we do on Saturday?
Okay.
We're here. Volunteers willing to do invasive species poll. And you line them up and then you tell them to go home.
Sorry.
Worst.
Sorry, Brian. You picked the wrong pond to be pulling weeds out of.
Well, we need to just, if you find water chestnuts in the other ponds,
You send them over to Flanagan.
there's not chestnut in it.
There's just other weeds they can pull.
Well, it's a big
Oh.
pond.
Did you hear anything back from Solitude on
Not
are they
lately.
gonna be doing their cost estimate?
They, what was the date that I gave them? I talked to them last week. They said they'd get something back to me by, I think, I asked them for the 15th. And they said they tried to do it before that. because thinking of the selectmen on the 20th.
So, it's no longer Dominic either.
No.
What's that?
It's no longer Dominic Marangelo.
He's still with him.
He's still with them, but
But
he's
he's
not
not
in this
doing-
role. They've got a person whose whole role is putting together quotes.
Oh, okay. Who's that?
I forget.
Is that Mark? Mark Bello?
I don't think so.
Will
I think-
Stevenson?
no.
No? Okay.
Guys, email upstairs. They can tell you when I go rewrite the letter.
Okay, updating the year boilerplate order of conditions.
All right, who did their homework?
I circled a few things.
But I was actually, I've read comments. So
Is
I
that
actually,
just grammar or is that substantive? Because
Well-
grammar I don't mind so much.
no,
If
it's
that's all
not sub-
substantive, I'm
no,
gonna
that's,
cry.
yeah, so, no, well, just to, so I think we should go through the whole thing in that separate parts. I'm sorry. And actually, because this is something that's gonna represent all of us, I think we should have Bill and Bonnie here too.
Perhaps, but we could, if you guys were into it enough to the idea, we could work through the three of you and then it becomes just Bill and Bonnie working through what you guys have already, it would shorten the conversations without changing the substance.
One stylistic thing I'd like to correct for, and it would be, there's a number of areas where, it's hard to circle them at the end. Well, there's some references to like, okay, C, pre-construction, one, B, or whatever. And I'd rather have it so that you could do like a 3 or 4 word phrase that indicates what it is, put parentheses, see that for more detail, but just not leave it as the reference being,
You lost me, I'm not following. So instead of say
and say-
C pre-construction 1, you would
Right.
say,
okay. Just have them right out there. Let me just find out, give me a minute,
okay,
so.
packaging.
So we're just throwing things out?
Yeah, sure.
So,
Preferably in order of some sort.
yeah, so, well, I'll just go for my first circle. Is, page 8. Well, it's, pre-construction condition pre-C1A. We talk about the wetland boundaries shall be clearly marked with biodegradable flags, and you say that degradable, photodegradable, UV degradable, oxidegradable, or oxo-biodegradable flag stakes are not acceptable and shall not be used. I don't know what the heck those are, first
Me
of all.
neither, to be fair.
So we can't be putting things in here that we don't know what we're talking about. Secondly, what are they allowed to hang? A piece of lettuce? That's not gonna be there the next time you go out there. We need to be able to enforce, these permits are good for 3 years, they can be
Yeah.
extended.
So Rob Oliver looked into these,
Yeah.
and the lifespan of biodegradable flagging is 6 months through 2 years, give or take, depending on weather. The source I'm pulling this.
It's more likely 6 months, especially if you need to be able to read what's written on them.
The source I was pulling from for all of that alternative to gradables language is just that. They were, when you market, food, there's organic, all natural, no preserve, that kind of thing. And they do the same thing with these degradables, saying, oh, well, if it's light, it's, this, but if it's exposed to oxygen, it can degrade, and so, and it's a marketing scheme, and it's just calling out all of the things that aren't actually biodegradable.
I would suggest that if we're really concerned about not having a bunch of plastic out there, then we should specify that they either use biodegradable flags, whatever that is, or the metal tags that are, I don't know if they're aluminum or whatever, the flexible metal that will last a long time. You basically indent, like you write on them with just a stylus or a point, wetland flag -1A or whatever, that doesn't wash away, you know,
Yes.
like an ink would do.
Right, no,
So,
that's good, because it's a short-term and a long-term option.
Yeah, and it has to be doable.
Yeah.
And where do you find? I don't know where to find something a tape that meets all of this.
Well, the only standard there is that it's biodegradable. And I don't want, so the goal is not to have degradable tapes. We want strictly biodegradable. And that's what all those other, that's what all those restrictions are. A non-biodegradable flagging that is somehow degradable.
Who decides?
The manufacturer, the marketing on the cover of the tape.
Yeah, I think that makes it, I think for somebody reading through and trying to figure this out.
It overcomplicates it.
Oh, yeah.
Burdensome.
So just say biodegradable tape or metal tags.
Um,
And so what I'd like to do here is just take your copies that you guys have marked up. I can give you back a clean one, but it's a lot easier than trying to take notes, especially yours, Jess. There's no way I could keep up with that.
Well, you can't read my stuff yet. Let me write this.
I don't know about that. I can read a lot of chicken
Okay.
scratch.
Um,
We can compare that.
That language appears again on the netting.
yeah.
Right, because it's
Yeah.
the same place I'm pulling from and it's the same issue.
Yeah. And then this whole
So we're looking to simplify this.
natural material source from outside the U.S. must be certified. Good luck. I know what you're trying to accomplish, but these have to be implementable.
Well, and, not trying to disagree with any of those points, but like, for instance, Steve Mulaney did look at these and didn't bring up those points. And so, I don't know that, it adds lettering, obviously it adds fine print to read, and it makes the whole thing longer, absolutely. But, from Steve's perspective, he just skimmed right through it. And I also read this past Rob, and they brought up different points, and even the famed 3-hour edit on that we did with GPR. Those particular things got skipped, and so it's easy enough to delete them, but I also think that so far they haven't been. Nobody's said, what are these? I don't get it. They've just said, I wouldn't buy that. They said, buy biodegradable. Okay, buy biodegradable. And they just, so, it may be a moot point in both cases. We can interrupt this. if you want.
Okay.
So, you wanna come up? We can interrupt what we're doing.
Okay. I'll do any special attention. Hi, how are you? Hello. Hi, good to see you.
So we haven't gotten to this yet, but, so this week, I got some messages about 78 Sandy Pond, and how the erosion control, right, 78 Sandy Pond, yeah.
Yes.
And how the erosion control on the eastern side of the house had been pulled. And, went out and, well, first I emailed Rob and, asked him to get in touch because I didn't have his contact information. And then the next day I was in the office, I went out there first thing, had a chat with the landscapers, and the landscapers were in the process of picking up more erosion control to put up on the east side of the house.
So they were replacing it?
Yeah. The erosion controls had been pulled down because there had been intention to put a rock wall there between the neighbors. The neighbor disliked the rock wall, so the rock wall got pulled down.
Was that in the plan, original plan?
I do not recall that detail being in the plan.
Was that in the original?
I mean, the wall was, I think, only like one course. Yeah. It's not, you know, maybe they want it, so it's fine.
So, and the landscapers had done the loaming and seeding work, and it had extended into the neighbor's yard, which I assume is at the neighbor's request. And so, the erosion controls were replaced, but sort of the little issues, are that, a wall that may not have been put up on the plan was put up and torn down, and the limit of work extended into the neighbor's yard, and the erosion controls were sort of taken down, without prior notice, and there are no issues on the ground. There's no risk that the loam and seeding in the neighbor's yard is going to hit the pond. It's kind of a bowl-shaped yard. The rock wall isn't there, and the erosion controls have been, put in, put back in, and perhaps even, a little bit excessively. There's no, and the erosion controls against the pond have been raised. So there's nothing in terms of a violation to discuss at the moment, but there are, half a dozen procedural errors that took place. Does that sound all right?
I don't know about half a dozen procedural errors, but it's kind of news to me.
Well, anyway, so that's the story. And so we were talking this week, and he offered to come in, and if you guys wanted to have a chat, he could be here rather than just simply hearing my report.
Okay, so everything's back to as it should be.
Yeah.
And as it shall remain until the project is completed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe sometimes during the course of the day, an erosion control might have to get moved temporarily, but it has to go right back.
Not on that limit of work there. I mean, if it, they're supposed to remain in place until the project's done and the site is stabilized.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's across the drive or whatever, then yeah, it becomes an access, but on the pond side, no, there's no reason why that.
But they weren't removed on the pond side. In fact, they doubled them up on the pond side.
Isn't
So-
that where the pictures we were sent were?
So the erosion control that was removed, if you're facing the house as it's being constructed, it's on the right side. Just the right bank, the right edge, the right boundary. The pond edge, nothing was pulled up. And like you said, that layer was heightened by one. Because in a few places it was getting flush.
In your opinion, did any material end up on the neighbors that shouldn't have? Because that's also
Well, that's a limit of work question. Because from a limit of work perspective, the neighbor wasn't part of this issue.
So there wasn't any barrier from the neighbor's yard to the pond per se,
Right.
even if the topography was
Right.
favorable.
And there's a good bit of loaming and seeding work that did go on neighbor's yard. I mean, I don't know, maybe half this room, ish.
I'm sure.
Is the loam seed on the neighbor's property? So total area maybe like half this room,
Oh, no.
a little less.
Yeah, it's maybe a couple of feet or something.
Oh no, it goes past the shed, or it goes around into, like down below the driveway there.
Yeah, but the boundary is,
Well, the boundary's a shed, right?
Yeah, I think the boundary's the shed, but if you run the line from the boundary that's set by the water, you run the line by the boundary set by the road, right by his mailbox, I mean, he doesn't really have enough land to drive around. I mean, I'd say 98% is all on my land. I mean, I think they tried to feather or level it off, so it just didn't drop off. And I think that was the idea of the little wall, to try to, make it flow in a little easier. But he said he didn't want the wall, and so they took it out. I mean, I wasn't even there. I think the wall was up for all of like 2 hours or something.
Yeah,
3
that's
hours.
what the landscaper said. He basically finished it and then turned around and tore it down again.
I mean, it was just, there's landscaping blocks, pile one, 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 pile one. And, it's not, it doesn't have cement or anything like that.
So,
But it wasn't part of the plan.
right.
Yeah, I didn't see it. I only saw the photos, but there seemed to be a lot of recurring
I didn't see it
issues
either.
with
Yeah.
this site. So it's
I didn't see it either. I mean, it was kind of the landscaper's idea to do it.
well, yeah. The landscape is working for you, so it's
Well, they didn't.
ultimately the
No,
property owner is responsible.
I'm not
But
trying to duck anything, I'm just telling you.
yeah, I know. I didn't see it, but it just seems like this property comes up a little too frequently for my taste, as having issues.
Well, that's why I'm coming here tonight. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to anybody. And, when there was an issue, Rob contacted me, got right back to him and sent him an email and then got right back again, so. And I just figured I'd send the pictures directly to Brian, so he'd have them. Plus, he'd come down actually anyway, too. So,
And Rob went out and visited as well yesterday, and he reported back and said everything looked as it should be. So the landscaper said they would do it on Tuesday, and Rob said Wednesday morning that they had done. So
Let's stick to the plan from now on, all right?
okay.
Any other comments, questions, suggestions?
Okay, well, thank you for
All right, thank you for coming in.
Well, thank you, and thanks for sort of like taking me out of order here, because there's nobody else here, but the other night I stayed till about 11, so I appreciate that.
Yeah,
But, yeah, I did ask to, be on the latter part. All right, thanks a lot, everybody, I appreciate it.
you're in a high-profile location, and everybody drives by there, so.
I think the piece might be if the landscapers have any ideas while you're not home, tell them to give us a buzz.
All right, maybe we should, good idea. All right. Well, still, it's a vast improvement to what was there.
Yeah,
Yeah, and you do. I think we're talking. It'd be worth maybe talking to DPW about that section of road there that's gonna end up gullying your yard.
Yeah, see, the problem is the road, kind of comes to like a low point there. So all that water isn't even my water, it's coming from the street and wherever. So, that's kind of the difficult part. I think that's why the landscaper thought that maybe the wall would make some sense, to prevent the water from coming off the street.
Yeah, and in the long run, I think you're gonna need some kind of feature there, either in the road or in that space between the houses, because it does look like you get a lot of water.
Yeah, but I mean, I didn't create the water, Bill in the new house didn't create it or whatever. I mean, the DPW, maybe they should put a berm on there or something, but even that, at some point when it's a low point, it might go over, I don't know. Yeah, all right, well, thanks very much, I appreciate your time, and I know you're working here for nothing, staying late at night, I appreciate that too.
all right, good night.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. Not my dress, Relaxing.
Where were we?
No. Well, let's just keep rolling. Takeji's points are well taken. It's just wordiness for the sake of wordiness.
It's not just wordiness, but I don't know what that all means, and then I don't know how you.
Yeah, the enforceability of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the flip side is, the applicant has to be able to practically speaking meet these
Right.
things, so.
But I also like, you know, your edit to like drop that, just say look, biodegradable or metal tag.
So give them
that's-
two options that they
Yeah.
should be able to,
You know, because the point Rob Oliver raised was that, you know, and as you well know, there are plenty of projects that take more than 6 months.
oh yeah, yeah, they are, yeah. And,
And so, you know, to be out there reflagging every year, you know, is burdensome potentially.
agree.
But to go out and use, you know, this a slightly more expensive stake, you know, and if they do get left behind and forgotten, it's not gonna be, you know, a detriment necessarily.
You have, for exposed soils, you have annual oats mentioned.
Yeah, that was inherited. You know, it's just, I don't really know, cause like annual oats, so you gonna protect them? You know, are you gonna sow disease and the oats are gonna come up that fast and?
Which one?
Yeah, well, I mean,
Which one do you mean?
if, I think rye is typically what's specified because it comes up quickly, it takes quickly.
What one do you want?
This is, during construction C6, or during construction 6M is in Mary. I think, I don't think there's anything wrong with
How long does rye
specifying,
take to come up?
what's that?
How long does rye take to come up? I've never planted either, so you know.
I think it comes up quicker than oats, but I think we should just make sure we're comfortable stating one thing or another, or a couple things before we actually state them. And if we're not comfortable, we just simply say an appropriate, you know, an appropriate species, native,
Yeah.
you know, so just,
Have you guys ever gotten to the point where somebody planted the soil pile?
yeah, the big piles, that's,
Like what, like the willows or? Any of the projects that I know, maybe is a better way to put it.
I don't know, those have been going so long that, I don't know, it's pretty common to,
And then it's a common enough thing for soil piles to be out that long that they need to be covered.
yeah. Perpetual number 9 is the, no herbicides or pesticides. This is one, just to give you an example, in Groton, the commission has evolved in its perception of the use of pesticides and herbicides, since invasive species have become such a big headache and management concern. And so more and more I'm seeing Groton, the commissioner saying, strike that. It's still part of our boilerplate, but they're saying, and, you know, we just sprayed a field in Groton that we own, the town owns, because it's covered in invasives, and so it's kind
So
of
you
like,
wanna scratch that, or do you wanna write in an exemption?
well, so, you know, this is a perpetual condition saying, basically no pesticides and herbicides, because you're not gonna find organic pesticides and herbicides readily available. But what if,
That's what vinegar is.
but what if, they have, what if let's say it's a single family house lot, and, you know, they discover a big patch of Japanese knotweed or something that they're not gonna get rid of except by spraying it, you know, doing a cut and paint sort of type thing, so it gets in the roots.
It's not infection, it's not
You're basically saying, you know, if we include this condition, you know, then we're basically condemning the homeowner to a lifelong battle with,
So the way I understood that condition,
mhm.
as I was reading through it, I didn't think of it the way you're thinking of it. I thought of it in terms of like lawn care.
So fertilizers I can understand, but when you're talking about pesticides and herbicides,
I'm thinking of those little yellow tags that people put in when the true green comes by. Like that's what I was visualizing when I was reading through that.
right,
What I was thinking is when people, do work on their property, get an order of conditions, and see their next door neighbor who doesn't have an order of conditions because they haven't done any new projects using their non-organic whatever's, they're gonna think, why do I have to do this? What I was thinking was this might be something to eliminate from the boilerplate, and if we get the, bylaw done, we get the ability to write regulations, that's something we could attend to for a whole neighborhood, is that it's not just, you can't, your neighbor can because they're not under an order, the perpetual condition,
And then,
but a regulation would say,
yeah,
try to give strong encouragement to the whole area not to use.
that's interesting, cause then, yeah, and then there'd be moot anyway, and the enforceability issue. Yeah, so perp 9 graduates out of the orders into a reg.
That's not necessarily what I was getting at, but it's an interesting alternative to figuring out how to wordsmith this.
I mean, that would allow us to think more reasonably and, think more thoughtfully about what's actually possible. Geocentric had suggested various incentive programs, if we wanted to do something like that too. But just that it just seemed, having it in here, I could see where somebody could say, yeah, but Joe Schmo next door is doing what.
Or the Conservation Commission is dumping
Yeah.
herbicides into the
Yeah.
pond.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
So, strike it. Strike the herbicide.
strike it, to maybe put it aside
Right.
for other discussion.
I mean, definitely something that we need to think about before we basically tell applicants not to use herbicides at all.
Okay.
Um,
So, strike until further,
I was thinking more, I don't care so much about residential lawns as something like the end of Pleasant Street, where you've got large fields that are within our jurisdiction, meadows, areas like that. Those maybe we want to have more control over.
right, but if we were to have more control over them, that would be,
Because they're less developed, they're more wild.
but you'd involve that in the review process for the project and, maybe making a special order
And
or site-specific order.
Right,
Yeah.
and of course, this only applies to areas within our jurisdiction, so,
Right.
if you don't live within 100 feet of a wetland, you can dump as much pesticide and fertilizer as you want, by right, so.
Okay.
And then my last one was perp 13,
Yeah, my list of hyperlinks.
yeah.
Yeah, I can't figure out why nobody brought that up in any of the people that directly reviewed this.
I don't think they,
No,
Looked at
mean, so the reason I put that all there was simply so that there would be a link and a title easily accessed, so that, if a contractor, somebody who, first of all, I hope they look at them, but if they had a question about whether or not something was invasive, they had places to turn to that would easily, they're like, oh yeah, the order conditions, there's a list in the back, and they can look up the website, they can look up the, it's the New Jersey Invasive Species Strike Force, and it's the Ontario, Club for Growth, and, they know what to Google. That was the logic behind the way that was set up, but honestly, I've been waiting for some kind of inspiration to strike me or somebody else on how to do that better. And the half dozen engineers and biologists and that looked this over haven't said a word about it. So either they got bored well before they got to that last item.
I'm guessing they didn't read it.
Yeah.
But it seems like you could go from the third or fourth line to where the sentence continues on the next page. And you could join that one tightly together and then just see full of links. Because it's sort of like a German sentence where you have to read a few paragraphs to find.
What's the German sentence?
In German, that can have these very long paragraph-long sentences where the active verb is at the very end, you know, and you have to sort of go through all this stuff and find your verb and find out what, and then you go back.
I mean, that's interesting, I've never heard of that. But the other way I was thinking of presenting that was just to say no invasive species, and then like drop down to like a reference list, and just have a list of references.
That would be better. Yeah, that would be better. I don't think you need to include every state and province in the Western Hemisphere on your list.
Hey, New Jersey and New York, they've got pretty good websites for this stuff.
Pick two, put them on there, and then I think we could consider for plantings that are going to be in our jurisdiction, coming up with our own list of recommended plantings that we can just say, yeah, if it's not on this list, you know, ask first, and then.
Yeah, but
Such as that.
I can't do that in an order.
What's that?
Right, can I?
Do.
Make a planting list?
Yeah. Provide a list of acceptable plantings, and then they can just choose. If it's on that list, then they can put it in on their landscaping plan, or put it in the ground. And if it's
That sounds hard. Do you know, do you guys have one? Does another town have something like that?
the other towns have, I have one that I can provide to you.
Because I know enough about botany to be terrified of that prospect. Hunting down the appropriate planting options.
I think it's better than listing a dozen
To be fair,
links.
just
you know.
about anything is better than that arrangement, which is
Yeah.
why. Anyway, so yeah, I'm in agreement in that needs fixing for sure.
Mm.
Alright, so I'll make the list of references.
And if you
I'll
remind
make
me,
it,
I
what,
will get you.
3 references, 5 references?
Two.
Two references for invasives.
Unless you think the ones from Massachusetts are not
Well, it's the kind of.
good enough, I would stick with Massachusetts.
Yeah,
There's-
Massachusetts isn't
there's-
good enough.
There's the Department of Ag Resources list, and then there's the other one, the
Yeah.
first one that's on there. So
Yeah, they're kind of weak. New York and New Jersey, far and away, have their invasives act together, and New England doesn't. Rhode Island is in pretty good shape with their aquatic invasives. Massachusetts is okay, but yeah, compared to those two states, you know, it's all amateur hour. in the
alright,
rest
so,
of New England.
so put those two, and then we'll put together our own list of.
And I'll send
Recommended.
you an email at some point asking for the
Yes.
planting list.
Yep.
Do you wanna make the planting list a perk, or do you wanna make it a special? Or do you wanna make it its own section?
I have to think about that.
You wanna go again?
Yeah, one of the things under the perps is number of the perp 2, 3, 4,
The repeats from the,
7, all talk about things that can't be done in the resource area, the wetland buffer area, or riverfront area,
Mhm.
including, you know, and technically this is all covered under the Wetland Protection Act jurisdiction. But in terms of highlighting a perpetual condition, it says, you know, even, any runoff from washing of vehicles or equipment, blah, 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 shall not be directed to or dumped into any resource area, any on-site drainage system that would lead
Mhm.
to a resource area. And I'm thinking, well, how many of the houses around the ponds are inside buffer zone? And so what does this mean? You can't wash your car and your neighbor next door who doesn't have an order of conditions is washing their car. So it's just the realisticness of it.
So,
I mean, that I would actually like to have as a longer discussion also with Bill and Bonnie.
it's easy enough to strike that because
Mm.
half a dozen of the perps are essentially, it's a time issue because,
Mm.
you know, when you're washing your construction vehicle, it's under the current order. But, you know, like that example of washing, say, your personal vehicle, you know, that doesn't happen. And half a dozen of those are where the regular orders stop when the
Yeah.
COC is issued, and then these perpetuals keep it going.
Right.
And it repeats, their actual just repeats
Yeah.
of the language somewhere else in the orders.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's a good question whether or not they need to be repeated at all.
Yeah, just, because it's like no alterations to soil, vegetation, both alive and deceased, except as approved by the commission, shall be conducted within any buffer area. And so you could look at that and think, I can't plant trees, I can't plant bushes, I have to
Right.
go every time to do anything in my yard that's,
Absolutely agree, and the reason they're in there is essentially the reason, you know, that we just had that discussion with
Right.
people, you're like, well, I can do that, right, like, and they're just reminders, but at the same
Right.
time, they're the last thing in the order of conditions, and least likely to be read or remembered,
yeah. So if we could think on that more as we consider this, just to think what would be a more effective way of having people encouraging, because you ask for too much, so many people go, oh, that's ridiculous, don't do
Mhm.
anything. So how can we encourage conscientiousness or thoughtfulness?
So which ones could you star them, the group that you're thinking of here? Okay. We've got a lot of red in there, so.
So,
And then do you want to just hold them for the moment and think about it in deeper detail, you know, as part of maybe the bylaw discussion in October?
yeah, I'd like to get Bill's take, Bonnie's as well. I mean, I do think it's an important document, so having all of our input would be important. It's gonna represent us all when we sign our little names.
Well, right, but like,
Yeah.
for instance, you know,
So I wouldn't wanna pull anything on this discussion without getting feedback from the others.
I was just thinking of trying to take your edits and your ideas and making
Yeah.
a new document for those two, so that, you know.
One area I'd love to see simplified would be the wetland, application.
Like, most of, I think half of those, if not more than half, are regulations,
Yeah.
arguably. And so when the bylaw passes,
Yeah,
most of that can be turned into regulatory language.
yeah. But even just to simplify the presentation, because there's talk of like an interim 1 report and then an interim 2 report, and it looks like there's a final report.
Right.
And there's some way to say, 3 reports will be generated, and then section, interim 1 report, interim 2, because it sort of stretches out, and then at one point, when I first started reading it, I thought, oh, we've gone on to interim 2 report, and it's like, no, we are still, it can be tightened quite a bit.
So, remember the story about those?
No.
The presenters from the MNCC Fall Conference who consult for a living, who do a lot of wetland replications, basically wrote up what would be orders to avoid problems they've seen in the field.
Yeah.
And then I consolidated the presentation into this and ran it past them. And they said, you've got here more of a regulatory document than an order of conditions document, but, this would fly, this would pass, if you've got no regulations, to work from. And, so much of what you're saying, the people who came up with this already said as well. We just don't have an alternative home for those ideas. And, it is boilerplate, you know, the wetland replication for the end of Rosewood, you know, much of that language doesn't apply, you know, because the context is not there. But, you know, that was trying to fit everything into one space, and we could winnow down on site-specific, project-specific cases. But until there's something regulatory to work from, I don't have anywhere else to put much of that. And, you know, not having done all that many wetland replications in any context, you know, and knowing what these guys have, you know, I definitely deferred to their feelings.
Yeah.
So, just in case you didn't remember anything, there's the full
Well, so-
refresher.
Yeah. But keep a lot of the stuff, but maybe initially until we can put it in regulation, but simplify the presentation. I was wondering on the requirement of supervising scientist must be approved by the commission, must
Mhm.
submit at least 3 choices.
So the
Is that a
reason,
burdensome
well,
requirement?
the reason I did that,
Yeah.
partly had to do with, if you remember our awful discussion with GPR, when GPR was like, hey, can we just do this guy? And Bill's like, yeah, he's fine. You know, there's no actual consideration of the applicant, the applicant's choice. And, you know, in other contexts, when you do utilize the consultant bylaw, you know, you know, the commission does get to look at the options and, you know, raise objections if there are any.
Mhm.
And that's what that was for.
But then again, we don't get to choose the applicant's consultant or their wetland scientist or any of their other professionals.
Yeah. So let's continue this at our next meeting.
So then, is there anything I can actually fix? You know, anything I can update? We're gonna leave this all.
Yeah, I'm with Jess. I wouldn't start making any changes until there's consensus
Yeah.
of,
Sounds like
What's the point?
we're still in discussion mode, sure.
Yeah.
So George, what have you got, even quietly listening?
Actually, I've had pretty much the same ones that have already been mentioned.
Easy enough.
Mhm.
Okay. So we'll keep this rolling, but, you know, this is exactly the kind of
Yeah.
feedback that I was looking for, so this is good.
To be continued.
and I agree with you, that you know, we're kind of in a tough spot because we don't have any regulatory teeth behind us from a bylaw perspective, so it makes it would be easy to say all activities shall be in compliance with our bylaw. You know, that would be one condition that would just cover a whole bunch of stuff if we had a meaningful
Law
bylaw.
associated
and regulations, yeah.
Yeah.
But we don't have it, so it,
You know,
Yeah.
the order of conditions is gonna get shortened significantly. Should October work out nicely?
so.
No, next spring.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I need to get used to that. Okay, so then, the last detail is the bylaw, the enforcement policy, and, the update there is that, Eugene hasn't heard from anybody else who has an enforcement policy. So he doesn't really have any new feedback. So, I'm sitting on an enforcement policy that Eugene has had a look at, that, I've only come up with one additional piece that maybe it would be to, detail that regular mail will also be sent in conjunction with certified mail at the same time, because, you know, we have trouble getting certified mail to some people when they know it's coming. And,
Mhm.
you know, if we can just make sure that the letter doesn't get returned to us, that might count for something.
Do we have a constable?
Yeah.
We do have a concept.
That's what they're for.
You used them once on the right road.
Yeah. But for instance, our friend over on Vermark and that issue, you know, we read the letter to him in this room, and I mailed it to him, and he finished fixing the offense before the certified mail was even returned to me. And so to go through the certified mail process, he'll get tried at least once before the constable comes into things. You know, and so to flesh that out a little bit more is the only thing that's occurred to me. And, you know, other than that, it's waiting for any MACC feedback, and then would be send that off to council, I suppose, or you know, bring it back to you guys if anything notable comes down from Eugene and MACC, but that doesn't seem to be likely at this point. And we're having our bylaw special meeting on what, the 8th of October? Is that right, Jess?
13th.
13th?
Yeah.
So, you know, what I really want to go out of that meeting is you know, Ayer specific purposes and goals. You know, because, you know, if you recall from the last meeting, you know, Bill was saying that he wants to make sure that what we do has been done before.
Oh, and that's a question. Robert said that by August 25th, he would provide us with a list of wetland bylaws that town councils worked with,
I haven't seen it.
as well as approved by the Attorney General's office.
I haven't seen that.
Okay.
But what you know, I would be interested in hearing and discussing are things that haven't been done in other towns, because you know, Ayer has its own unique challenges and opportunities, and you know, I would like to hear, you know, what you think would be best for the town and would, you know, be most accepted by the town, and you know, what town meeting voters would, you know, like to see. You know, I don't necessarily want to just do what everybody else has done. You know, I want to do something that is tailored, and you know, other towns may not have tailored something to, you know, a 7-string of ponds kind of situation. I said that wrong. That's poor grammar. You get the idea though.
Yeah.
But that was poor grammar. Apologize for the grammar.
Although a lot of the tailoring will come at the regulation stage too.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, that's, you know, and that's the other side of the coin. You know, you know, while I say that, and while I'd like to see that in the bylaw, you know, maybe Bill's got the right idea, develop a special thinking for, you know, later on. But, you know, I think that is a discussion, you know, certainly worth contemplating.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, CA updates.
What would I have left? We did this. So, if you recall, there's a fellow at 103 Oak Ridge Drive, John Delcore, who came in, Delcore. He wrote his name as Delcore.
Yeah.
Bonnie had some people talking to her about the job that went on, and you know, the report was that he cut a tree down, and you know, the loam and seed work went down the slope, and so I wrote him a letter and said, hey, you know, I got some reports. Do you mind coming in to clear them up? And he said, I can't come in on the 25th, but you know, I'd love to clear them up. And so he's got a letter in return. So if I can read the letter I sent, and I can read the letter that you replied with.
Bill had said
Saturday that he was gonna stop by because he knows him. Don't know if he did. He's going.
So, on May 12th, you appeared before the commission to discuss loaning and seating which occurred in front yard. Due to the relatively minor nature of the project and procedures discussed, the commission did not feel that your project as described rose to the level of requiring you to go through any of the processes related to the Wetland Protection Act. This office has received information that you went beyond the scope of what you spoke of by taking down trees and extending your work onto the slope that leads down to the pond. The commission will greatly appreciate it if you could contact the conservation administrator and consider attending our next meeting on the 25th of August. So, the letter I got back, Mr. Chairman, I have received a certified letter from your office dated the 17th. It would be my pleasure to meet with you on the 25th. However, I have a board of directors meeting for a financial institution that I am an executive committee member of, and as such cannot make your meeting. I have thoroughly read your letter and I reviewed the video of the May 12th meeting. The video starts at 3 hours 12 minutes and ends at 3 hours 15 minutes. Shows I clearly explained the scope of the project, grading, reloading, and seeding the existing lawn to the tree line, and reworking, repairing the existing walkway along the edge of the lawn from under the deck. Brian, your Concom assistant, addressed that we had several conversations regarding the scope of the project. During our discussions, he requested that I prepare the appropriate documentation and present my project at the 19:15 time slot on May 12th. You will see in the video that I have a folder. The folder with the environmental documentation that Brian said I may have to submit at the request of the commission. It was not requested. After presenting the project and answering questions, the chairman clearly asked for any questions from the other commissioners. There were none. With regard to the removal of trees, one overgrown evergreen bush in the front yard that I have groomed and pruned for years was removed because it was encroaching on my sewer line and was discovered to be doing so after DigSafe marked the project. That was the only shrubbery/tree removed. That one piece of shrubbery was replaced by 3 expensive maple trees placed so that they would not interfere with established utilities. With regard to your reference to the slope work, there was only the repair and reseeding of the existing earth walkway that was discussed in my presentation and was done so to stop erosion during the pond and correct safety. Once again, I did not deviate from what was presented with the exception of not grading the yard as discussed in the video. I changed the grading of the project and determined with the contractor that a more environmentally sound option to grading the yard would be to loam and rake the yard to the natural contours of the drain so as not to create a stormwater runoff towards the pond. The yard was loam, raked, and hydroseeded with the exception of the pond side of the existing walkway that will be hand seeded with ryegrass. That will be allowed to grow out and stabilize and maintain a natural looking terrain feature so that it will look like it did before the repair work. I believe that I honestly and sincerely answered all questions from Brian during our several phone calls, questions from you and the members of the commission during the recorded meeting, and as stated was prepared to submit the state environmental documentation as requested by your citizen prior to the project. Mr. Chairman, I've received a tremendous amount of compliments about how wonderful my yard looks for the many walkers, runners, and bicyclists that enjoy the ride around the pond. Based on the detail of your concerns and the perception of deviating from what I presented, I can only assume that this complaint is from a member of your commission who may have entered my property without my permission. I'm asking that the concerned party or parties that presented this information to your office be identified to me. I just want to know who feels that this project was not what I presented on record. As you and some of your commissioners know, I was the environmental chief for Fort Devens and served on the installation environmental team for more than a decade. As an Eagle Scout, I am conservation minded and make sure that as the committee chair for one of the local troops that we live and practice scouting ethics in all our activities. As such, I would never consider misrepresenting a project by going beyond its scope and take this accusation seriously. For the record, I actually de-scoped the project by not creating the lawn as an environmentally conscious decision. Also, as stated in the video, my 1915 time slot was not recognized and I was not seated until after 2200, causing me to miss a community event that I had volunteered to participate in. I am willing to meet with you to discuss our concerns. I am sure that whatever concerns we have can be resolved. As to what was reported to you, please give me at least 2 weeks' notice so that I can manage your request with my very busy schedule, or feel free to call me anytime. So that happened. And
I don't think anybody entered his property. I think it was
yeah, from the road.
From the road or from the water.
Yeah. So, this happened, I got that letter Tuesday, and I have not responded.
Forward it to Bill.
I don't have, I only have paper.
Scan it.
Scan
Right,
it.
but
Scan
that,
it.
I can't do that tomorrow, I have to
and see if Bill has talked to him.
Okay.
If he hasn't, then he should.
Fair enough. So I will remind Bill that he ought to go have a chat.
Yeah.
Okay. We have another Eagle Scout project that's coming down the pipe. He came in to meet me yesterday and we talked it out, and he wants to put in fishing line collection tubes mounted on fence posts. So basically one of those green fence posts with you need to do a fence post
Right.
the installer thing. And then basically put up a PVC tube, you put the fishing line at the top, you unscrew it at the bottom, you pull the fishing line out, and it sounds like he's gonna try to get his troop to make an annual lap of town to empty out the tubes. And he's gonna flesh out the idea a little bit more with sites and details and costs, and try to make the meeting on the 22nd, when I spoke to him. So that's coming. I edited the wetland permit application a little bit because there are a couple of specifics in there that don't work. You know, like, I don't keep hours on Fridays, you know, that was listed in here as something. So I did that, and then I also tweaked it a bit to try to include a few other things, such as that discussion about maybe expanding the mailing to abutters. So I put that in here.
What expanding hours to
So like the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act thing that we got from MACC, and perhaps including that, and the guide for abutters that I stole from Kathy Sfera in Stowe that she wrote up. So how do you want to go about reviewing these changes? I haven't posted the changes, I'm just working through it. But for instance, this is not one of the changes. I just justified everything and neglected the picture at the top. So don't judge me on this one. But you know, do you want to just say, well, it's not really a regulation, it's not really da-da-da, or do you want to say, because I'm changing what the mailing to the butters would look like, does that rise to a different level of, I mean, I don't even know if I can do that, because we don't have regulatory power. And I don't know if the butter mailing is something that, I don't know what level of Concom powers that falls under.
Well, that only happens for a notice of intent public
Right.
hearing,
Right.
which is specified under the state regulations, so I don't know,
Well, I guess I can get in touch with Kathy and ask her what she does, because she has.
I guess I'm confused as to what you mean. So are you suggesting that applicants should have to mail that thing out to everybody? Or?
When they do the notification to abutters. So this idea came from Kathy, she does this in Stowe, and what she sends around is this, and it's a little bit more than 2 pages, like what is it that you're receiving this notification for, and what is your right as an abutter, and just like a walkthrough of the process. And you know, I think I'm going to answer my own question. I need to ask her how and why she is able to have applicants send out more than the regular notice.
Right.
I mean, that's something we can put on the webpage.
Right. It's an easy enough thing to do, and just suggest to applicants that they send these out as well. But I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good approach. I'll ask her
You know,
under what magical power she does that.
Yeah. And then I changed the the NOI submission checklist to include GIS files for if there's going to be any impact to wetlands or resources, you know, where I'm thinking more in terms of destruction of rather than, you know, something within the buffer zone, so that wetlands destroyed and wetlands replicated, we've got an electronic history somewhere to say that, you know, we have this many acres of destroyed and replicated wetlands, and, you know, we can sort of track that. But, you know, again, this gets into the question of, you know, I don't know how you guys reviewed this when Becky wrote it up in the first place.
Oh, we wrote it up at the police station over many meetings on the slides. Remember, projected. We did
Was there
that.
pizza involved?
Yep, there was pizza.
So order us some pizza and then we'll,
Yeah, when do we have a pizza party? Do it like what?
okay.
A few times we had to meet at the police station because we got kicked out of here. And, but, yeah, that wasn't done by Becky, that was done by us, I believe, over several meetings. Painstakingly.
So, do you want,
Yeah.
how, why, et cetera? Do you wanna look at the little tweaks I made, or do you just wanna say, hey, you know, good job? Or do you wanna say, hey, don't do that?
Well, we can't say add those things until we look at them, so,
Yeah.
but we have a chance to look at them.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
So do your tweaking, highlight them, and then show them to us.
so email it around? Alright. I sent you guys the flyer for Exploring Trails, the event on the 6th of September. Has anyone heard from Eagle's Nest about that certificate of compliance that they're supposedly gonna be asking for? Alright. I did over that, went over that. I was out at Ruth Ayer Tire this afternoon. The place looks great. Those plants are coming up like gangbusters, and they're gorgeous. The flowering right now is very photogenic. And so I'm expecting to see them in requesting their COC on the 15th to the 22nd.
What kind of plants are flowering? The purple loosestrife is beautiful?
No, I actually don't know what any of those plants were. They had something that looked like a buckwheat that was kind of purple, but skinnier. They had a buttercup looking thing that, you know, it's probably a 1.5 feet tall, and I want to say like 8 to 10 flowers to a side, with that like little small buttercup looking flower. You know, I don't know my wetland plants, you know, to that level, but they were gorgeous. It's fantastic. The seed mixes were great. Do I need to do anything for the 20th with the selectmen? Is there anything you're expecting to receive from me on the 15th expressly for that meeting? Do I have a to-do list?
Just the cost estimates we should have in hand from Solitude.
But nothing more than that?
So we're going to them about expanding your job. Have you remember our job description for your job?
Yeah, you've got a file of it.
Yeah. If you wanted to look at that, and in light of being in the job for almost a year,
Maybe do an edit on that?
just not edit the document per se, but just writing the sidelines, you know, this should be added, this should be, you know, ways that, you know, things that, when we wrote it up before, didn't take into account, just to underscore. And then the other thing was the pond argument, so. I was thinking that meeting might also be a good point to talk to the board about what is the role of the pond and dam committee. Because I think there are some things they could be doing if they knew what they were doing. And some things that, you know, obviously have to go through us, but that maybe they could take on some. Can't remember. But we can discuss that on the 15th.
One of the ideas that I passed on to Robert during that meeting was suggesting that, you know, for funding the lake work, perhaps this would be an excuse to get a lake association put together, whereby the town will contribute to pond management, you know, maybe matching whatever the lake association puts forward. You know, so
There's some percentage.
or some percentage, because, you know, the argument that, you know, the town as a whole kicking in for lakes that, you know, are mostly privately enjoyed, you know, it might help the cause if the private landowners along the banks were to kick in as well.
Robert told me he was going to be looking into something along those lines. Because I met with him about 3 weeks ago before he came to our meeting, and I'd raised that too. And that might be something pond committee could also do. But he said before going on anywhere, he was going to look into some other towns. But did he say that? Anything to you about that?
No, he just sort of looked at the note and nodded and smiled and moved on. You know, how the funding goes is, you know, how people are sold on the idea of spending that money for that purpose. You know, it's always easier if you got your own skin in the game. But so what else is going on? Washington Street, we did the numbers. AJ, who you know was here, I gave him 20 signs, the conservation restriction signs that were upstairs that apparently were bought in 06, that apparently were $9 a pop back then. I gave him the files and the information on where they came from, and he said that he would buy 60 of them for us. Yeah, so I gave him 20 and he's got to come back 60 of the exact same. So that's pretty cool. That's everything.
Okay. Community Preservation Committee.
Meeting in 2 weeks. Next week, sounds like 2 weeks.
Stormwater, Greenway, open space,
Meeting next Monday.
master plan.
Master plan is finding itself still. They had a meeting recently where some of the master plan committee members who are town employees were not invited to the discussion, and so they're trying. The status of things is that the committee itself and the town process and the consultant process apparently still have some kinks to work out in procedures, and then all being on the same page.
Alright. Member updates, yes.
Just kayaked out to find the reported discharge pipe into Sandy Pond yesterday, and Bill texted them to Bill this morning. He said it didn't look like it was doing anything, but thought I would show everybody. There's not a house right behind it. It's more like just a little beach area, but if you look at this, and this, you can see.
Where is it?
On Sandy Pond, somebody called me last week to say, I think they'd rather remain anonymous, but they're just concerned that the neighbor had suddenly put in this, or at some point put in this pipe that appears to be a discharge directly. But
Let me see it.
I saw it earlier.
And then there was an older pipe in the water that came out about 12, 15 feet. About metal, about that thick. But it was capped at the end with a cap like that, so nothing was coming out. I have no idea what that was there, but it's there.
Any educated guesses about, you know, what hill where it may have originated?
No, because uphill is basically, you can see uphill there, it's thick
Oh,
vegetation.
so there's just vegetation all the
Yeah.
way,
I think there's a house to the left, probably a house to the right, and with all the
sort of all the way
rights
down.
coming down, the easement rights coming down these little roads.
Did that just come up, like, I mean, was that just installed recently, or?
She didn't know.
Okay.
And I think they're just some neighbor feelings. But she thought we should know. So. My guess is it's probably taking ponding water or something. This is, because I know before I moved, or just the year after I moved in, one of my former neighbors who no longer lives there, the sheet flow down Mountain View was washing out the retaining wall and the steps. And so this is before I knew about the Conservation Commissions, and they put in a grade about 5-10 feet before the retaining wall, and then a tube that would collect it and then just put it through. So it's the same water that would reach it in 5 or 10 feet, but instead of washing out the wall. So maybe it's something that's collecting ponding water that was going to make its way down, but I don't know. So Bill said it didn't look like it was doing anything. So anybody else have thoughts?
It's hard to tell what it is doing, if it is doing
Mhm.
anything, right?
I know, and
Are there
can't go on land.
are there tracks showing?
No, like tracks from a vehicle.
No, like tracks from liquid flowing from the mouth of that.
No, and 'cause I took that picture just to show, and I didn't. Of course, this is not the year to evaluate discharge of. But although we did have 1.25 inches the other day, so. But it didn't seem like there was any sign of gullying. How'd you do it?
I went to your camera and now I'm in your latest picture. Hey, stop it. I hate using phones that aren't mine.
It's okay. Got the nudes of Georgia on there.
Hey. So, you know, just zooming in on this, there are plants growing just near the mouth of it, and there are needles falling right at the mouth,
Yeah.
and so
Doesn't look like much
it
is
hasn't
happening.
been used recently. I mean, yeah.
So at the moment, no concern.
I think personally that next, you know, every time you're in the vicinity, maybe you want to take a picture,
Yeah.
and if
After
it,
a storm event.
yeah, and just see if something moves. So let's find out if it's an active or if it's a leftover.
Okay.
I don't know, is that out of your way, or is that sort of on your way from one point of interest to another?
In kayak mode. No, it was a special trip. I can do that. Unless it's thundering and lightning.
Anything else?
No.
Alright, so then I'm gonna go up and change that, delete that sentence, and change that pay rate, and we did.
Okay. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.